Is Phil ready?
Phil, are you ready? Yes.
Yep. Okay. Call to order the regular board meeting of January 17th, 2020. And we'd like to welcome you to the Buchanan Community School Boards of Education meeting here. All of our meetings have been posted in our district website, in the central office, and each of our district buildings. Tonight's agenda has been posted on our website as well, and there should be a copy in the back. We also want you to know that our school board members do receive supporting documents several days prior to the meeting so that they may be informed and prepared to comment and participate fully in the meeting. Of course, this is a meeting of the district's business. Is not considered a public community meeting. There is a time for regular participation during the meeting as indicated in item agenda I. And if you wish to make a presentation to the board, there's a speaker
Harvey,
card that can
you
be.
got to speak up. You can't hear.
There's a speaker card that can be passed out and filled out and brought to the board president. With that said, let us do our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that said, roll call.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Ms. Berry.
Here.
Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Ms. Lesh here. Dr. Carlin.
Here.
Ms. Ryder.
Here.
And Dr. Burnett.
Here. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda, may we have a motion, please?
I motion the agenda for the board meeting of January 17th, 2022 be adopted as written.
Support.
And roll call.
Oops. Sorry. Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item E, recognition of visitors. We'd like to welcome you all to our board meeting. I'm not sure if there's any special visitors, Ms. Robinson?
No special visitors tonight.
Okay. Moving on to item F, superintendent and department reports.
Good evening, community. Yep. So we have, tonight, we do have Mr. Nate Will, who will do his presentation of his department. So Nate, if you want to go ahead. And then after Nate, we'll have updates from our executive team, which includes our technology director, and then Al from our operations. And then we will not have one from our business specialist. She is out today. And then also our assistant superintendent, Mark, and then myself. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So, just want to say thank you for meeting tonight, giving me the opportunity to discuss a few things that are going on in the transportation department. And there's not a whole lot going on. I've been doing a lot of driving, so my list has been kind of scaled down because, again, 8 hours in a bus and like 4 hours in the office. So. We took the routes out of the computer system completely. I asked the drivers to give me the routes. We put those back in. Tomorrow the drivers will get that list. They will go through it to make sure it is correct, and then I will meet with them, and we're going to adjust the routes a little bit to make them more efficient. Right now we have drivers that are leaving at like 5:45 in the morning, others that are leaving at 6:15. So we're trying to get that closer to the 6 o'clock leave time. We had 2 buses that were on recall. Those are finally fixed. They both will be out on the road tomorrow. I am looking to reduce our bus inventory. I did a email out to the state transportation supervisors and directors. The average So for a school district our size, we run 7 routes. We should have 3 to 4 sub buses. Currently, we have 6. So that will gonna look at selling a couple of those, get rid of them. So they're pretty old too. I think we have a 2002 and a 2004 sitting out there that don't get driven pretty much at all. I also want to start looking into phasing out our leased buses and going back to purchasing. Putting in a replacement schedule to buy those buses. Obviously, this will take several years because we can't do it all up front. But I know last year Malin bought 1 bus off lease, so that's kind of the idea of maybe rolling that over into buying 1 or 2, because if we can buy them for $50,000 compared to $80,000, we'll get there. The driver's lounge, we're slowly updating that. Right now, the drivers, they come in, it's just kind of grungy. There's old stuff in there. I came in a couple weeks ago and wiped down some of the walls. I rearranged some of the furniture, moved some stuff around. We also are putting in a screen to do daily announcements for the drivers, as well as kind of a joke of the day, lighten the mood in the lounge, get that morale back up.
Nice.
We currently have 1 route open. There is a job posting, so if you know anybody, send them my way. We have 1 driver coming back this week from COVID. Another one is going out this week in COVID. Right now, we don't see any disruption of transportation services to our kids, so we're pretty good there. Also, we'll be next year, slowly getting the drivers into it, moving the department to paperless except for our pre-trip forms. Student conduct, bus van repair requests, their time off requests, all moving that to online. I've been working on getting the webpage updated. Before, when I came here, it just said under construction. So, little by little, once I actually have the time to sit down and really play with that, we'll get that going. The drivers have been very open to suggestions that I've had. I came here with 13 years experience driving, and 5 of those years were over at RV. So we're pretty comparable size-wise as far as the amount of drivers we have. So it's been pretty easy to explain to them how we did things over there. And right now we are trialing our our field trips at 3 weeks out. It's going pretty well. We're going to do it again tomorrow. So we haven't had anybody that we've had to pull to take a trip. So Jennifer Templeton started. She came in. It's been like she's been here since day one. She has been doing very well at Copy Central. She's driven vans. She does not have driven a bus yet, but she's been driving van routes. I can't say enough about her. She's great, very knowledgeable. She has 10 years of supervisor experience for transportation, so she's kind of my go-to when I'm like, hey, let me run this off of you. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. If you have any questions?
Thank you. A lot of information.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. I believe I hear Phil coming down the way.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
So I failed to explain why I have to come from the back every time, since I should do that. My name is Philip Place. I'm the Director of Technology. I am running the live stream from the back, making sure that the world can watch this. So that's why I don't just normally hang out back there. It's not that pleasant. Okay, so a couple things I want to go over just to kind of get you up to speed. If you've been watching the news at all, You heard about the log4j vulnerability. Without going into all the technical jargon, it's just a nasty thing that has affected the entire world as far as web servers and things like that. We had only a couple of our services were, there's a difference between saying susceptible and vulnerable and saying that they were compromised. None of our systems have been compromised, so that is wonderful. We had 3 systems that we know of for sure that were vulnerable. BRISA took care of the Power School issue right away. Power School wasn't even 100% sure that it was a problem, but they ran the mitigation strategies anyway, so we're very grateful for that. Our Wi-Fi management system was another system that was possibly susceptible to it, and our at least a couple of other services within the district. For security reasons, obviously not going to list all those things. But none of those things actually have a world-facing presence, which means they do not, while they might have access to the internet does not have access to them. So we don't have to worry about those kinds of things. And none of what we're talking about is any kind of sensitive or crucial system. So we were right on top of it, took care of it, everything is good. As far as network upgrades over Christmas break, it's a great time to shut some things down, reboot some things that needed to happen. All of the district routers had a firmware update that they've needed for, well, a while. But that can't be done unless the district can be brought offline. And I would like to pat myself on the back that our uptime is pretty amazing. So we haven't had to do any of that. And then lastly, we had the IFP, we'll call it interactive flat panels, the IFP update. We had a large storage container delivered out to the middle school. While an eyesore, it is a necessary evil. It's going to help us to swap out the technology that we're going to be upgrading in the elementary classrooms. That technology is now slated, was supposed to be here in December. That didn't happen. January also didn't happen. Now they're saying February, so I have crossed everything I can do to cross right now, and we're hoping that stuff will be in on time. It's looking good. In fact, part of the order has come in to the depot, but they're not going to ship everything until everything comes in, and they're slated for mid-February. So lots of exciting things happening for us in the technology world. On a completely unrelated note, I would like to mention that the robotics season kickoff was January 8th. We are in full swing, and I would like to invite each of you guys to come see what we're doing. We're in the workshop from 6 to 8 every weeknight, so if you get a chance, come and see what some of these amazing kids are doing. It'd be great to have you. Any questions for me? All right.
If we were brighter, we'd know what to ask. But you did a nice job of explaining the issue that was really worldwide. And hats off to the IT department that it wasn't a major issue for Buchanan. Thank you.
Yes, that was, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't like to talk down to people, but at the same time, you don't need all those details.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks, Al.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good, thanks.
Obviously, on the maintenance side, performing our routine preventative maintenance. Did some stuff here at the high school with some faucets. We got the metering type faucets, and they start going bad, and the cartridges inside are really expensive. Like, it almost is not worth replacing the cartridge to the price of the cartridge to the faucet. Well, then I was able to find some touchless faucets for half the price, so basically I get 2 for 1. So we swapped them out in one of the bathrooms, kind of a trial thing to see how that goes, and maybe go to touchless faucets here in the future, get rid of replacing a lot of other parts. The only thing that requires is a mixing valve for the hot and cold water, and we can adjust that. Over the break, we remodeled the kitchen at Ottawa a little bit. Becky bought some new stainless steel shelving, got that put up, repainted. The electrical cords were, for all the appliances, hung from the ceiling, which was kind of a pain. And some of them, if they weren't paying attention, would move over and get hot next to some of the appliances. So we installed a pillar and put all the plugs on them, so it's a lot easier to keep stuff out of the way and, you know, not just hanging from the ceiling. They're really happy about that. Other than that, just pretty much, you know, chipping away at work orders and preventative maintenance and getting up early when we got to plow. And any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm just going to talk from my paper copy. Bill says there's some technical difficulties in the document I sent him, so I just sent him another one, but I don't think he had a chance to upload it. So if you want to just look at your copy on your screen or whatever, if you slide down to page 1, as you know, the middle school and high school have been working a lot with PLCs and solution tree and some training. That's not to say that the elementaries are either. They also are. They're just doing it with the Hill project. But part of the process that Solution Tree is working through with them is coming up with a process and procedure for them to actually look at data and how to look at data. If you remember years ago when I was the principal at the middle school, we kind of had a process in place that we used there. We're kind of letting each building kind of work on their process that's going to kind of work for them. So I know that Shelby in her report, she gave you a kind of a paper copy or a copy of what they're using, their form that they're kind of working with. The high school is kind of working through this form that I put in front of you tonight. And then today they met again with Nathan from Solution Tree and are kind of tweaking that over the next month or so to kind of work better for them. It may change a little bit. But just wanted to kind of talk you through the process and of what they're doing. Oh, look, magically. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for being on page 1 also. All right, so this copy that we're working through right now gives them a chance to put in the standard that they're going to assess and then kind of decide whether it's multiple choice, essay, and so on. Then it gives them a chance to kind of, at this time, put down the list of students that were below proficiency, at proficiency, and then above. Okay, and kind of the idea is to kind of look at where students, those students that are struggling, put them down, but then those kids that also are maybe at the top end and need some enrichment, that gives them a chance to kind of list those kids, kind of like for planning down the road. As we move to page 2, gets them a little bit of chance to reflect actually on the data that they're looking at. Not only on just the intervention, but like I said, on the enrichment needs, kind of where did the students do well. So, you know, if they're taking an assessment on a standard, they may have done real well on a certain part of the standard, but they didn't do so well on another. And so as they look at that data in more depth and talk about that by departments, gives them a chance to talk and communicate on what instructional strategies they were doing at that time, and then maybe the goal is to kind of look forward and how to reteach that, or maybe what interventions to bring out. They spent a lot of time talking about skill and will, and as we move forward into the spring, they're looking for a Solution Tree to come back with some ideas on how to work with those kids, more on the will side, those kids that just flat out, you know, don't want to do anything, and kind of, so that's kind of where they're going to be heading. If we move on to page 3, this is where we kind of get into the Tier 1 or Tier 2 interventions in the classroom, and kind of getting specific as to those students that maybe were on the low level, and then kind of beginning to talk about what instructional strategies we might want to do to reteach something, whether it's small group, whether it's pull out, maybe it's sending it to another teacher. And I think that's obviously that's where we want them to go. That's the part in PLCs it's probably the most beneficial, is working with those kids that are struggling. And so I think they'll spend a lot of time as we move into the spring kind of talking about that and getting some more ideas. But I think it's nice to see that, you know, there's a spot where you can kind of think about that enrichment piece also for those students that are on the high end, okay? And part of that idea of working in the PLCs is you get that input from all the people in your departments. Moving on to page 4. This is just a chance for them to kind of go back and refine and look at their assessment specifically. You know, depending on how the assessment went, there might be a certain question or two that as they talk about that assessment in group, they might want to look at rephrasing that question or rewording it or coming back at it a different way. So it just gives them an idea to reflect on that as a group. Page 5. This is something that we talked about just at the end of the presentation today with Solution Tree. They had kind of talked about it in their meetings when they were here last week in person, but just kind of getting them to kind of look at a plan moving forward of where we're going to be, what we're going to be looking at, whether it's in your department, in your classroom, what priority standards are you going to be looking at as we move into February, March, and April. The middle school is also doing that as part of their PLC process. But just kind of give you an idea, you know, what assessment we'll use to determine that, when will I create the scale for the standard, when will we assess it, and what days do I anticipate providing interventions. So kind of getting them to think about it. So again, they're just in the beginning phase of kind of looking at this. This form right here is one that Stacy and Solution Tree kind of came up with as a starting point for the high school. Middle school, as you've seen, has a little bit slightly different form, but again, kind of still talks and covers the same information. So, any questions?
Are they designing their own assessments, or are these?
I think they're doing both. They have
Okay.
their own that they've designed, but they also have some that they use that are maybe out of the book or from a a testing software that they have. I know that some of the departments would like to look at some more testing software programs and things like that, which we hope to do in the near future.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to share that I appreciate the enrichment part, because I know we always get a lot of questions about that. So when we focus on the interventions, that we are making sure we're doing the enrichment. So thank you for pointing that out.
No problem. Anything else? So I'll just thank Phil on the backside for helping me present today. And Phil, I'll just let you know I like it that way, just to be honest with you. I want to hear about that later, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. In addition to Mark and PLCs today, I just wanted to share as well that the teachers went through a training this morning with Dr. Bernice Patterson, who was round 2. We've gotten some really good feedback about self-care and just taking a mental break from some things. So we do appreciate that, and it was a nice PD this morning. So yes, so let me grab my presentation.
It's on here.
All right, so I am sharing mine. You guys can see that. So my update has just a few tidbits about our quarantine and positive cases up to date for this month. I did want to share with you guys that we made throughout the school year, we've been making changes with our learning plans. We've been providing in-person learning consistently pretty much for the most part of this year. We've had a couple of pauses with certain grade levels at the elementary school and at the middle school. We went to universal masking for Ottawa, Moccasin, and Buchanan Middle School right when we came back from Thanksgiving break, and then we also went to universal masking for our high school the week before Christmas break, and then we're still there. And our main goal has really been to just make sure we're consistently offering in-person learning for our students. The cases that we've had so far in January, as you can see, we've had 4 cases at Ottawa, 10 at Moccasin, 14 at the middle school, and then 7 at the high school. And that's up to date. I did update that slide today. So, and as you can see, when you compare it to December and November, for our middle school, it is higher right now than it was for the whole month of November. So we are keeping track of that. And then where it has really made the biggest benefit is we've had less students out of school. So you can see the number of quarantines that we've had. And there's just a brief update about where we are so far with January. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And then just throughout the district, I held last week the student advisory session at the high school. I did have a student come, spoke with me for about 10 minutes. It was really, Mrs. Robinson, how are you doing? So I really, I appreciated her for stopping in and checking with me, and it was really nice to connect with the student there. The open sessions with our staff at the high school and at Moccasin, those have been very beneficial, and so far I have not had a day where it's been empty. So each time I've held those sessions, someone has come to see me. And at Moccasin, I think it was like seven teachers. And then last week, we also held our parent advisory meeting. Mark was there with me. We had 7 parents on call. We were able to get into our subcommittees. So I think we have 5 subcommittees there. One of them is scheduling at the high school. We have one that really wants to focus on elementary Spanish. So I don't know how we're going to make that happen, but we can explore it. I know that does, it'll be some money if that happens, but it could be long range down the road. But we have about 5 parents who are really interested in having elementary Spanish. We have Spanish at the middle school and then Spanish at the high school, so it will be like a K-12. So we do have some vision there.
Nice.
And then the other committee, we do have one that is going to be helping us with marketing and public relations, and then also calendaring. So I give kudos to those families or those parents who are willing to take an extra step and being part of these committees. And just my last slides are just pictures around the district. Wanted to say we want to celebrate teachers as they go off and they get extra degrees or certificates. This was just dropped in my email about Erin Cracky, who finished training. She is now a certified Google trainer. We know we have several other trainers in our district who became certified a couple years ago, but Erin just got hers, so we want to congratulate her. And we look forward to all of our trainers helping with facilitating some of our training with our staff here. And then again, congratulations to our esports team. I did take a picture of the team when they received their trophy last week. And then just good luck to our herd as they are a semifinalist in the Battle of the Fans. I saw them Friday at the game, lots of excitement there. Just true kid spirit and high school spirit there. And then the other one around the district, this is really the community. I attended the community pageant, my first Buchanan community pageant Saturday. It was really exciting, really well done. Just congratulations to our winner, Liliana Wagner. And then I just was able to get some pictures with some of the finalists and then one of our kings there. And just lastly, this is Board Appreciation Month. And I want to say thank you to all of you, Dr. Harvey Barnett, Ruth Ryder, Kelly Lesh, Chris Lee, Katie Berry, Dr. Scott Carlin, and Chris Carlson. You guys serve with professionalism and with so much resolve. I appreciate you and your guidance as you help govern the district. We see all of the lists on the side here of things that you do, creating a vision of what parents and citizens want, setting standards, assessing our schools, and achieving our goals. And the list just goes on, and it's not all there. So we know that you do not get paid for this work, but we thank you for your volunteerism and just your resolve in just keeping focus on our students and what their needs are. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of my presentation.
All right, moving on, excuse me. Thank you for those presentations. Moving on to item H, business, as far as new and reports. And we have the Student Advisory Committee and a report from that.
So yes, my advisory committee was here at the high school last week on the 11th. I did have one student, and she came and spoke with me for about 10 minutes. I just briefly talked about that and just communicated with her.
Okay. And the Parent Advisory Committee?
I spoke about that just a few minutes ago regarding just the focus areas there. So
Okay, very good. All right, moving on to item I, Community Dialogue and Citizens Concerns. I'll go through it, just a reminder to, yeah, I think it's way over here. Okay, we're at the Community Dialogue Citizen Concerns, and just a reminder that as we go through, be respectful, and you have 3 minutes to make a comment. And Carla Johnson. Carla? Thought I saw her somewhere.
She's up there. Yes. Say it louder.
Carla, can you hear me?
We have come here since September to beg you to stop quarantines with no court orders and medical mandates that override parental rights to direct the education and care of their children. We've told you this will be called out in court. Exactly that happened quietly on January 13th when Honorable Colin G. Hunter, 46th Circuit Court in Otsego, Michigan, ruled Michigan Health Code 333-2253 that allowed mask mandates and closures of schools has been struck down. The ruling states the health department director has unconstitutionally been given unprecedented broad use of power to affect every action of Michiganders' public, business, and private lives by the unilateral determinations of the existence of an epidemic without any definition of what that word means. The director might as easily find Michigan is in the grips of an opiate or obesity epidemic. The ruling severs 333 from Michigan's public health code. Exercising judicial restraint, the judge would not venture to rule on the broad public health code. However, the constitutionality of the rest will eventually be revisited by another court, as Don Ryman has been telling you. The judge says the legislature has delegated exceedingly broad power to the health department without any oversight of such authority, thereby endangering the liberty of the people, as the present case vividly shows. If the legislature cannot delegate its full authority, then a county health department cannot delegate its unconstitutional powers to a school board. You are also in violation of the 2015 classic UK peer-reviewed published study that concludes cloth masks do not protect against respiratory infection. The physical properties of the cloth mask actually increase infection risk. The virus survives on the mask surface, causing self-contamination and increased infection due to moisture and pathogen retention. Why do you insist on illegally and irresponsibly masking healthy kids and taking them out of school?
Thank you, Carla. Moving on, Donald Ryman.
This is in reply to your letter to me of January 7th, 2022. All my remarks are in my capacity as a constituent and taxpayer of the Buchanan District School. I'm not speaking as a lawyer for myself or anyone else. You mentioned the positions regarding masks of various government bureaucracies and other organizations. But you do not cite any study by any professional mask authorities stating the effectiveness of the mask which you are requiring the children to wear. This is understandable because there is no such study. There is no scientific basis at all for mandating the mask. This would not bother me very much if the masks were harmless to the children's health and did not cause lasting physical and psychological damage to them. But they do cause lasting physical and psychological damage to the children. As a responsible member of the community, I cannot stand by while this happens. Unfortunately, I cannot expect the bureaucracy and agencies you mentioned to reverse their wrong position. This is known as bureaucratic inertia. I ran into bureaucratic inertia time and again during my 3-year career as a naval officer, my career since 1951 as a lawyer, and my 16 years as a Berrien County Commissioner. A classic example of bureaucratic inertia is the failure of the Vatican to officially accept the Copernican theory of the universe as against the discredited Ptolemaic theory until 1992. Look it up. As to the district's legal liability for the grievous harm to the children, you may be surprised at the ingenuity of plaintiff's counsel at destroying any legal immunity the state legislature may have intended to give the Buchanan School District. The wearing of masks that have been on the medical scene only a couple of years is most certainly medical experimentation under the Nuremberg Code. Such wearing of mask experimentation may be done under the code only with the express consent of a person being experimented on, or in the case of minor children, by their parents. As a war plant worker and reserve officer training cadet during World War II, and as a classmate of several soldiers who died in World War II, I violently object to carrying forward the vile practices of the totalitarian German government during 1932 to 1945, forcing involuntary participation in medical experimentation. We should have nothing to do with these totalitarian practices.
Thank you, Don. Moving on to Matt Belcher.
Good evening. Masks can cause up to 20% loss of oxygen, leading to excessive blood carbon dioxide. Breathing in exhaled CO2 may be life-threatening, according to those at the NIH. Many experience lightheadedness of rebreathing already processed air. This is a warning sign of more serious health problems. Wearing a mask every day can lead to alterations in blood chemistry, and that leads to changes in levels of consciousness, according to Amesh Adelia, senior scholar at Johns Hopkins. German neurologist Dr. Margaret Grice Bryson, who specializes in neurotoxicology, warns that oxygen deprivation from mask wearing can cause permanent neurological damage. Rebreathing exhaled air creates oxygen deficiency. The human brain is very sensitive to oxygen deprivation. There are nerve cells that can't go longer than 3 minutes without oxygen. They can't survive. Physical symptoms are reactions from the cognitive system. The reason mask wearers don't know the damage is happening is because once a person has oxygen deprivation, the symptoms disappear because the person gets used to a deprived state. The more you think you're used to wearing a mask, the more the degenerative processes are amplified, stopping normal brain function. The more active the brain is, the more oxygen it needs, and that's why it's wrong to mask children. Constant deprivation of oxygen is dangerous to youth health. It inhibits the development of the brain, creating irreversible damage. It's mask-induced anesthesia. This is the opposite of the value of going to school and learning. But what about COVID? Epidemiologist John Onitis just published a study showing the survival rate of those under 20 is 99.9987%, and no one was vaccinated. Therefore, COVID, in light of its risk, is not worthy of masking students.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Richard McCoy.
To use the trespassing law to escort someone out of a meeting governed by the Open Meetings Act requires that that person breach the peace. If you threaten or have someone removed from the Open Meetings from a meeting of the Open Meetings Act without breaching the peace, you are committing a misdemeanor. If I refer to you to section 15263, section 6 of MCL 15263, it says a person must not be excluded from a meeting otherwise open to the public except for a breach of the peace. This is a misdemeanor under MCL 15272, which requires that you are intentional in your violation. You are now duly notified of the law, and if you do this again, you will be culpable in the misdemeanor under 15.272 open meetings violation. That's just some housekeeping, and I want to move on. I want to get to Title 18 USC 242, which is federal law. It's titled Deprivation of Rights Under Color of Law, and it applies to public officials who use their position and the law to deprive persons of their constitutional rights. Under the 14th Amendment, we have the right to liberty. The 14th Amendment binds state actors to the U.S. Constitution. You are responsible for any deprivation of rights under color of law, even though it's federal statute. It is a federal felony if convicted. If my friend Don Ryman and Matt Belcher are correct that this is causing bodily harm, I encourage you, because I don't want to be over dramatic, but I encourage you. It's a very small statute. You can read it. U.S. 18, Section 242. I encourage you to read that tonight, and especially read the clause about causing bodily harm in the exercise of depriving someone of their constitutional rights. You do not want to be in this situation. Now, this is all theoretical, except for the fact that you are implementing your mask mandates based on School Code 380.11a. Now, School Code 380.11a gives you broad powers. The general powers of the school district include those incident to the power expressly stated. But what does it say after that? Except otherwise provided by law. And what are those laws? The 14th Amendment and the paragraph above it, which is Section 380.10, that the parents have the fundamental right to control the care and education, of their children.
Richard, I'm sorry, we're at the time, okay?
Excuse me.
Sorry.
This section
we're at the time.
subordinates 380.11a.
We made your 3
And
minutes.
I'm trying to help you by
made your 3
making you
minutes.
aware of the
All right.
law.
We made your 3 minutes. Thank you very much. And Eric Stutch.
The reasons that you are mandating universal masking and mandating quarantines is unnecessary. You have been likely operating under the assumption that the state of Michigan is recommending it and that the Berrien County Health Department is recommending it. But for some reason, those of you who claim you're not medical experts and that you need to follow the science have decided to escalate from recommendation to mandate. If it was so concerning, I don't understand why the state of Michigan, who has the expertise and the authority that we all experienced last year, isn't mandating quarantines and masking for the whole society. I don't understand why the Berrien County Health Department, who supposedly has the expertise and the authority to place orders for public health, is not doing so. If they're not doing it, I don't understand why you are. Children do not need to be masked, and they certainly do not need to be quarantined if they're not sick. Your responsibility is for the education and welfare of the students and your staff. The welfare is their health in totality, their academic health, their emotional health, their social health, as well as their physical health. The mask and quarantine tactics that you're implementing are not helpful in any of those realms. If the reason that you are masking and quarantining students is for the health and benefit or protection of the society at large, that's not your responsibility. And if you think it is, you have a Messiah complex, and that's not right. The kids need to learn, they need to be in school as unfettered as possible, and that means unfettered from a mask. You've got children that have spent their entire educational life behind a mask. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. There's law, and then there's common sense. How many of your students are getting sick when they're under quarantine? How many of them are ending up in the hospital? What does your return to learn plan look like compared to other counties and other districts in other counties? I don't understand how schools can have parent choice masking and parent choice quarantining, but for some reason, other districts in this county are saying that you have to mask, you have to quarantine.
And Eric, thank you for your time.
These
We're
children
at the
are
minute.
not
3 minutes,
suffering
please. Thank you,
what
sir.
you think you're protecting them from.
Thank you, sir. All right. And moving on to Stephanie Payne.
Hi guys, hello, happy board member month, and happy Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That right there was a man to admire, and he knew the odds were against him. The media was spreading false information, and that he would not be able to count on fair coverage or pretty much anything being fair back then. He knew that he had to fight harder for those who had their hands tied and couldn't speak also. There's a lot of that fear going on. He had people looking down on him, and he was at a disadvantage, but he always rose above, and he corrected misinformation no matter who had offended, and he had a dream. Do you think that this was it? The common argument that I hear today is that parents who do not agree with the school board having tyrannical dictatorship over the health decisions of our children, they should simply pull their children out of these tax-paid schools. It's not only discriminatory, but it's unethical. All children deserve in-person learning. It should be safe and healthy and without these masks. There's plenty of science against these masks, and we've been bringing it over and over and over again. I won't trust my son in the school district until I can trust you guys to make the right decisions. I would never put him in a position where he would be abused, and putting these things on these children is abuse. That is what it is. I would never put him in a position where people would put him in a room with all these other students, decrease the oxygen 20%, and then up the carbon dioxide 6 times the lethal dosage. That is abuse. So putting them in that position when they're at school, they should be in a safe position, protected by people making these decisions. This is you guys. You guys are the only thing in between these kids having a safe and healthy education. We're counting on you. We are the taxpayers. This is what we're paying for. I should trust you guys. Your job is to make sure that these children have a safe and conducive learning environment. You would not put them in that room. But according to a recent study conducted by JAMA, a monthly journal published by AMA, the American Medical Association, on 45 school-aged children measuring the carbon dioxide levels. The study measured carbon dioxide levels. The normal content of carbon dioxide in the air is 400 parts per million, with anything above 2,000 parts per million considered unacceptable by the German Government Environmental Office. The JAMA report measured averages of 13,120 to 13,910 parts per meter of carbon, or whatever that is, of carbon dioxide. That's 6 times the lethal or the unrecommended dosage of that. And it's killing our children's blood cells. So if you're trying to provide them with a learning environment that's conducive to learning, you would not be killing their blood cells. We also have a Buchanan promise.
It's Stephanie, we're at the end of time, okay? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Be back next week. Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item J, adoption of the consent agenda. May we have a motion, please?
I make a motion, oh, let me get in front of my mic, sorry. I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education approves the consent agenda for the regular board meeting of January 17th, 2022 be adopted as written. 1, the minutes from 12/13/2021 regular meeting. 2, warrants, the Treasury and expenditure reports, December 2021. 3, recommendations to hire as submitted by Director of Operations, Mr. L. Burgett, Assistant Athletic Coordinator, Assistant Athletic Coordinator, Mr. Ryan Franzak, Ottawa Principal, Ms. Stacy Dennison. Recommended employee is Philip LeBowney, 7th grade girls basketball coach, Jensen Ruel, Operations Utility Staff, and Brittany Geminer, Early Education Special Education Teacher.
Support.
Thank you.
And roll call.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item K1, BVA graduation certification.
I motion that upon satisfactory completion of district requirements for high school graduation, the Board of Education hereby approves Buchanan Virtual Academy students Destiny Renbarger, Tanae Moten, and Alexander Long.
Support.
Ms. Robinson, anything on our BVA?
Congratulations to them for working through this and getting this done.
Yep. Congrats.
Very good. Roll call.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item K2, Neola second reading. May we have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approve the second reading of the following Neola new and revised policies. 100 definitions, 167.3 public participation in board meetings, 175.1 school board conferences, conventions, and workshops. 1100 is district organization, 2710 school farm advisory council, 3120 employment of professional staff, 6114 cost principles spending federal funds, 6152 student fees, fines, and supplies, 8310 public records, 8320 personnel files, 8330 student records,
and 8450.06, COVID vaccination testing and face covering policy.
Support.
All right, let's have roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry? Yes. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item K3, BEA letters of agreement. May we have a motion, please?
I motion the Buchanan Community Schools Board of Education approves the attached letters of agreement with the Buchanan Education Association for Brandon Flowers and Dawn Van Dyke.
Support.
All right. Ms. Robinson, anything to add?
Yeah, just, I want to thank these two staff members for stepping up and filling in as we are juggling just some vacancies. So Brandon is filling in, doing the work for more than one counselor, and Dawn Van Dyke, so outside of hiring our new hire, she filled in for the early childhood special education teachers. So they were going above and beyond, doing what their job and then additional work. So, and then thank you to the union for agreeing to this as well. Yep.
All right. Roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to question, item L, question and comments from board members. Any?
I have a couple.
I have one as well when you're finished,
Okay.
Ruth. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to compliment the high school, or maybe it was the county, where they finally went to something that I advocated for as long as I was a student, a teacher, and now a board member. They ended the first semester before Christmas, and that means that 2 weeks is truly family time, and that is amazing, and I compliment them on that. A second thing is on January 28th, we are celebrating Title IX at Buchanan High School, and in 1970 school year, as a result of Dr. Walt Vanderbush, we were able to add women's, girls softball, basketball, and volleyball, and that celebration will be at the game that night in the gymnasium. I have two others, sorry. It was brought to my attention as a board member that there was a family who had a very unique situation, and within less than 24 hours, our community, our school, the bus drivers, the entire community was able to resolve that problem. And my hat's off to the bus drivers and you, Nate, and to Trish and all. It was just, it warmed my heart. Yeah. It's why we live in this community and why we advocate for our students. I have one other save the date, and that is June 11th. And on June 11th, there's a huge celebration of this building. Because this building and this room that we're in right now is 100 years old. So save the date, June 11th. That's all.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring to the public's attention that for the second year now, Buchanan High School will be hosting an SAT class for all of its juniors, and that is free of charge to all Buchanan High School juniors. This year,
Closer to the mic.
This year it will start on...
Closer to the mic, closer to the mic.
This year the course will start on February 6th, which is 3 weeks from yesterday. This time, last year we did it in person. This year we're going to do it live via webinar. It will help students logistically who wanted to participate last year, who missed for various athletic events and if they were sick or whatever. And all the sessions will be recorded and sent to both parents and student participants so that they can catch up on whatever they might have missed, whether it's because they had another commitment or, you know, a big test the next day or whatever. So that's actually a Sunday. They will be Sunday evenings, so that should help alleviate some of the kids' busy schedules as well to be able to participate. If you know anybody in the community that has a junior at the school, or parents especially, who may drive their kids into participating in this, please let them know. They can contact me, Scott Carlin, or Brian Pruitt, assistant principal here at the high school.
Great.
Katie?
I just have one small comment. I appreciate all of the insights into the various topics that we hear. I also appreciate those that reach out individually or not at the meeting to give their insights as well. I know we hear some here, but I do appreciate those that are coming to me individually as well. So just thank you to those and keep coming.
So I have a letter real quick that we received from a student and a parent that wrote it, but I'll just read it. Buchanan community family, thank you so much for your support, donations, and especially all the awesome cards and banners. The hospital staff is blown away with Hannah's wall of wishes. I can't wait till she wakes up and sees the love. Tina Blumka. And then I just wanted to say thank you to all staff, and I had some students, but Patricia and Michelle for the board appreciation. I'm serving, this is my 9th year serving, and I just want to say that I am always learning something from my colleagues on the board, and it is an honor to serve on a board. But you're always constantly learning and being taught and always ready to be flexible and fluid. So I just wanted to say thank you and happy board appreciation to my colleagues.
Okay.
And you as well, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right.
And in a little bit of an addition, we meet once a month, sometimes maybe a second meeting, but there are many committee meetings and many, many hours. Last year I participated in 100 different meetings. So it's more than one night a month.
Okay. I'll just make one comment. Today we celebrate Martin Luther King and the accomplishments related to what happened during the Civil Rights Movement. Civil Rights Movement was about moving forward and changing laws to deal with equal treatment of people that were discriminated against. Back then, at that time, we had Jim Crow laws and other else going on at that time. And just a reminder that we still have a long way to go. Growing up and being in the military and having to deal with discrimination myself, as well as being attacked for walking down the street in my own city, we still have a long way to go. But I appreciate Martin Luther King and all of those that walked and fought hard to change so that all people have a right, an equal right, to be treated not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. With that said, our next board meeting is February 22nd, 6 o'clock, and we stand adjourned.